I haven't liked EmpLemon for the longest time now. Ever since I watched his 30-minute screech fest about how, oh no's, the normies are taking away his memes, and that video also effectively kickstarted a harassment campaign against a YouTuber who committed the egregious crime of making mediocre content about memes. I've just viewed this guy as a pretentious douchebag, and I've tried my best to avoid his content as much as I possibly can, but sometimes he blips on my radar, like he did a few days ago when he decided to quit Twitter because Twitter's community is toxic, which I'll agree on, but his reasoning for quitting Twitter is pretty fucking stupid because it's another fucking screech about cancel culture. Oh no, so many people are getting called out for the shitty things they've done. Oh wow, you think cancel culture is bad? Oh wow, I've never heard that take before. So original, please tell me more. Here's a hot take. Cancel culture doesn't fucking exist. I have never seen anyone who hasn't deserved cancellation be effectively canceled. Every person I've seen that has actually been canceled actually deserved it and actually did or said things that warranted them losing a big portion of their audience. Onision, Brookhouse, Sam Pepper, people along those lines, people who have done and said very shitty things to deserve mass scrutiny, and they've essentially lost their platform, or at the very least don't have a platform nearly as big as they once had. And you might say, well, Pro Jared, Jenna Marbles, they were cancelled for reasons that were either bullshit or twisted and fabricated to make them look even worse than they really were. Alright, Pro Jared, yes, he did face mass scrutiny when all those allegations initially came out, but then a few months later, he uploaded his video showing his side of the story, showing receipts that a lot of what was said about him was either twisted or fabricated or taken out of context or were completely bullshit, and then he got his audience back. He's loved again. He's not cancelled anymore. And Jenna Marbles, she was never fucking cancelled. She left at her own volition. There was a group of stupid people who took some videos of her doing blackface, or it wasn't even really blackface. She wasn't doing anything as bad as people made it out to be. She said some yikesy shit in the past and made some yikesy jokes in some of her old content, but she owned up to it. She apologized in her video where she announced that she's taking a leave from social media. And by the way, that video, before she took it down, was sitting at like 400,000 likes versus like 10,000 dislikes, so obviously she wasn't stripped away of her platform. She still has all of her fans, she's still adored by millions, and was backed up by many popular YouTubers, PewDiePie included, and people have used her case as like an anti-cancel culture thing, trying to say, cancel culture is bad, look, it drove Jenna Marbles off the platform, when again, she still has all of her fans, she still has her massive platform, so how the fuck was she cancelled? She left at her own volition. Like, no one was fucking forcing her to leave, and yet people still use this as a point against quote-unquote cancel culture. I'm just really fucking sick of the whole stigmatization against calling people out for their shitty behavior. If you do or say problematic things, especially if you make a career off of that, you're eventually going to get some kind of pushback, and you could do one of either two things. You can, one, own up to your actions and say that you fucked up or apologize profusely to those you may have offended, and then prove that you are a better person now and move on from what it was that you're being criticized for. Or two, and this is what most people do, whine about being canceled, whine about being taken to task for the shitty things you have said or done, and then whine about how it's so hard not being a piece of shit. Oh my god, I'm being canceled for being problematic. Oh, feel sympathy for me. And so many adults fucking fall for it, and then you see many people start whining about cancel culture. Oh my god, such a huge issue. Poor baby. You're like petulant little children who whine and cry and wonder why mommy took your toys away after you broke the flower vase. So yeah, that's why I think EmpLemon's whole Twitlonger essay about leaving Twitter is fucking stupid, because it's another whine fest about cancel culture and how supposedly the internet is so hell-bent on, taking people to task for their shitty actions, and makes the usual straw man that humans are expected to be perfect, never make mistakes once in their life. Here's the thing, motherfucker. If you have a large platform and you're doing or saying very problematic things, you're going to be taken to task for it. I'm sorry, but that's just the reality of things. You're not expected to be a perfect human being who is incapable of making any mistakes in their lives, but some mistakes, quote unquote, are bigger than others and should be called out and should be taken to task. Anyway, yeah. I also fucking hate how his twit longer uses Etika as like a token against cancel culture, and so many other people have done this. Etika's suicide being a product of internet toxicity, and sure, maybe that did take a play into Etika's suicide, but still, Etika had many other problems outside of the internet that factored into a suicide. And when I say the internet did play a part into a suicide, I'm not talking about cancel culture or any of that bullshit. I'm talking about the fact that so many people took him as a joke prior to him killing himself, and it only took him jumping off a bridge for people to realize that maybe we should have taken Etika more seriously. Maybe we shouldn't have made copious amount of memes out of his various mental breakdowns that he's put out on the internet. Maybe we should have actually taken him seriously. Maybe we should have actually been more positive. Maybe we shouldn't have made jokes about his breakdowns, because I'm sure his various public breakdowns were cries for help, and yet it fell on deaf ears, and people decided to just make jokes and memes out of the whole situation, and didn't realize that that shit is actually harmful, and they actually just brushed off someone who was sending various signals that something was very wrong with them, and they decided to just not pay attention to those signals, and decided to instead just make light of the situation, and make light on someone's misfortune, someone's mental health issues, and just sit back and watch the train wreck unfold and not even attempt to help. I have seen failed attempts to cancel people various times on Twitter, and they're usually met with mockery. People scrutinize those that are trying to cancel someone for a bullshit reason. Like, for example, that guy who plays Filthy Frank, I forget what his actual name is, but I remember people who are fans of his actual music because he's a legitimate musician now, just a few months ago, realized that he was once Filthy Frank that said a bunch of slurs and made a bunch of yikesy jokes, and it was a character, okay? It wasn't anything to take that seriously, but people decided to cancel him for that, and that was met with a bunch of ridicule and mockery, and no one really took it seriously. And I've seen various other attempts to cancel people for bullshit reasons like that, and again, I've never seen it actually succeed. Every time I've seen people be successfully canceled are, again, people who actually deserve to be canceled, did things that deserve them being stripped away of their platform and their large audience. So yeah, anyways, I know this video didn't have too much to do with EmpLemon himself. Again, the dude's a douchebag. He's an enlightened centrist type. He even once said that racism is just an opinion that shouldn't be taken seriously and should be ignored. And yeah, that's totally a effective way to combat racism. Totally. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about the dude himself, aside from just that. So, yeah, it's just that his twit longer inspired me to talk about my frustration with all this anti-cancel culture bullshit, and how I just hate that, being, taking accountability for your actions is starting to have a stigma placed on it, and that is something that should actually be countered, and not this mythological cancel culture non-issue. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Bye-bye.